How's it, guys? This is Miles from gymandfitnessequipment.co.uk. I'm at one of our international showrooms with our resident international expert. This is...
Hi guys, my name is Basil from Fitness Network South Africa.
So guys, today we're going to be putting together
the Monster G12, and we'll run you through the step-by-steps on how to put it together.
Baz, how long are you expecting this to take?
The installation process, probably about 4 to 5 hours.
Okay.
But that excludes carrying it off the truck and unpackaging it. Just installation time, about 4 to 5 hours.
Okay, brilliant, Baz. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back every now and again on the important aspects, the difficult items, and we'll see you guys a little bit later. So guys, if you've taken your G12 components out, then you should be seeing something like this. And you'll see what Basil has done is he's created a workspace for himself where he's kept that clean, and all of the components have been checked against the instruction manual and have been set up around the work area. So really important to keep your work area clean. You can see what sort of components we're dealing with. Everything, no, not in any particular order at the moment, but just set around nice and neatly. And we're getting ready for the next step, where our international expert Basil Clark will be taking over. Hi guys, it's Miles and
Basil from Fitness Network.
And as you'll notice from the last time that you saw us, a couple of things have happened. Baz, do you want to take us through this first part of the installation, what you've actually done here?
Yeah, sure. So what we've done here is we've actually unpackaged everything from the cardboard or the bubble wrap and plastic, and we've actually laid it out on the floor in pieces, step by step. The reason for that is when you start the installation, you find exactly what you're looking for very quick and easy. I have, if you look to the right, you'll see I've got a bolt, I've laid out the bolt packs. I have got my tools that I need, and we're starting with assembly step number 1. If there's any tricky parts to the installation, I will then let you guys know. Thanks, back to you, Miles.
Great, guys, we're going to see you in a few minutes. You'll probably notice that this is only going to take about 10 minutes to put together. It may not be in real time. We'll see you later.
Hi guys, it's me, Basil here, Fitness Network again, coming to you with a tricky part that people might not understand during the course.
You want to tell them where Miles is? Is that
Miles
the tricky
behind
part?
you.
Miles is behind the camera here. I'm still here.
So guys, as we have a look here, this is assembly step number 1. Now you will see in assembly step number 1, it says part 9, part 10 and part 11. That is the bolt, the washer and the nut. So if we go to the hardware pack, you will notice that the washer is labeled. You can see it says number 10, that's part 10. Then you will notice that the nuts and the bolts are not labeled. It doesn't say 11 or it doesn't say 12 part 10 or 11. The way you identify that is if you look at the manual, part 9, you'll go down to the list that's written here and it says hexagonal bolt part 9. Then it actually gives you the size M10 by 75. If you look down now at the hardware pack, it says M10 by 75. So those are the bolts you're using. You will do the same for the nut, part 10. You'll go part 10, it says part 10 lock nut, and it says M10. So you'll see on the hardware pack, it says M10. So that is the nuts. So during the process, sometimes if it does not have part numbers, on the step itself, it'll give you a list of what you're looking for with the description for you to find them. Thanks, guys. Hi guys, it's me again, Basil Clark, running you through the bottom pulley step. Just to let you know, I have picked up on a literature fault in the actual user manual, but again, if you've got your bolt pack laid out, it'll be very easy to pick it up. So let me show you where
we maybe have to say that this is not an unusual thing when things are transcribed from Chinese.
Correct. Now don't panic. If you've got everything laid out and you just take 2 minutes and just gather your thoughts and have a clear mind, you'll be able to pick it up very quickly. So you'll notice in the manual that they've listed part 9 for the bottom.
Assembly step
7. They said part 9 for the bottom pulleys. But if you look in the description below, there is no part 9. But in the picture, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. You need 4 part 9s. but there's no part 9s here. So what they've done is you actually need part 24, which is the 4 bolts for the bottom. So they've actually confused it, and it should be part 24.
Cool. Nice.
Thanks, guys. Hi guys, it's me again, Basil here from Fitness Network, assisting the cameraman Miles behind you.
How's it, guys? It's still me. And 10 seconds later, look what we've done.
Well guys, I thought I'd start this video to let you know, don't be scared to be hard with your machine. If you find that the bolts is a bit sticky, as long as the threads aren't being cut, if you find the bolt that goes through there is a bit sticky coming on the other side and you can't actually push it through, as long as it's through a little bit, then don't be scared, as long as you use something like this, which is a rubber hammer.
Jeez, Baz, that's a scary looking hammer, mate.
As long as it's a rubber hammer, which you can use to tap the nuts or the bolts, it won't
Okay, Baz, so that's
damage.
not going to damage the machinery by doing that.
Damage the machine. If you use a steel hammer, it'll make a lot of noise and potentially scratch it. A rubber hammer will not do any damage. Thank you, guys. Hi guys, it's me again here, Basil from Fitness Network.
Where's Miles?
Miles is behind you, Viduri.
Okay.
As you can see, this is what they call the frame structure, which is up. So earlier on I showed you, don't be afraid to use a rubber hammer. So you'll notice here's another step that could confuse people. You'll see the 2 chrome upright poles. Very important to notice and note that the numbers are facing the inside. But you could get confused because if you look at the bolts on the bottom, you will see they across each other, they're not in a direct line. So you'll see if you come directly down, they almost opposite each other. So earlier on, I actually had the same mistake. I put this pole on the other side. So if you put it on the other side, the poles are almost going to lean forward like this, and you would think it won't work. So pay attention, numbers on the inside, and if you put this pole on this side, it's going to lean forward, it won't sit upright. As you can see, only on the bottom, these bolts.
So Baz, this presupposes that you weren't paying attention the first time.
Correct.
Okay, that's
correct.
Cool.
Which
that's
is why I'm doing the video, to show you
Got
to
you,
be
got
important
you.
for that. Anything else physically on this machine that was hard? Nope. It is a bit wiggly to get these bolts in for these brackets, but it can get done. Don't tighten any of these bolts. When you first put these plates on, do not tighten any of these bolts up top here. Otherwise you won't be able to get the bolts in. My suggestions would be put everything together, then tighten. Thanks guys. See you. Hi guys, it's me, Basil, Fitness Network here again. Obviously cameraman Miles, as you know by now.
Standing vaguely in the background.
I'm actually starting now with the Smith machine parts. Now what is very important to remember, you will see that you get these 2 brackets that come with the Smith machine for the bottom and the top guide rods of the Smith machine. So take note, the small one is for the bottom and the one with the big opening is for the top, because when you got it in the top like that, there's another housing. If we take you over to the G9, you'll see there's another housing that actually slides into it, which allows you to go up and down. And you'll notice on the bottom there's a thick rubber. So you'll see we've got 2 rubbers here. We've got 2 types. So you'll see that we've got the thick opening one and we've got the thin opening one. So the one that we're going to be using for the bottom would be the thick opening one on the small one. Make sense? Thanks guys. Hi guys, it's me, Basil.
And me, Miles, again. I have somebody else behind the camera this time.
Just to let you guys know.
As you can see, it's 10 minutes later, and this is how far we've got with the rack.
And as you can see now, we've started with the counterweight for the Smith machine. Inside these cylinders is a counterweight about that long. And now we recently, and very heavy, we recently discovered if you've got a problem with a ceiling height.
Which I must add, for my friends in the UK, and unlike you guys in South Africa, Baz, in England we live in houses with ceilings that are quite low. So you guys in South Africa, Australia and America live in very big houses. So in the UK, and all my UK clients will know, ceiling height's always been a question and an issue. So this is a really important part to the installation.
So what you've got to note, if your ceiling heights are very low when you first place the unit in, I suggest screwing the cable that's for the counterweight into the counterweight and sliding it in the tube before you actually have the height problem. then that way you won't struggle. Fortunately, I was able to lift the ceiling boards to drop the tube in.
Cheap South African ceilings.
So I would suggest putting
Not
it
like
in
the
before.
UK where we build houses properly.
I would suggest putting it in before, but take note. Make sure you attach the cable first to the counterweight before
Otherwise,
you
what
put it
happens,
in.
Baz?
Otherwise, it'll drop down to the bottom of the tube and you won't be able to get it back.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. Over and out.
See you just now.
Important note, not to tighten these bolts on the top here, otherwise you will not get the spacer in for the bracket for the pulley. Thanks, guys. Hi guys, it's me, Basil, Fitness Network again. Of course, famous cameraman by now, miles behind. Let me introduce you to the Smith bar installation. This could be a bit tricky. You could need a second pair of hands.
In fact, Baz actually needed me
so what you
to do this, and it was really, I felt quite honoured, yeah, to be involved.
So what you're going to do is you're going to put the bottom bracket in. You remember, guys, you're going to be using the smaller one, not the bigger one. So you're going to put them in both sides. So then what you're going to do is you're going to leave one side in the unit like that, and your second pair of hands is actually going to take the rod out, but be careful that it doesn't slide down. And they're going to take it actually out of the machine and they're going to hold it here. The first person then is going to thread the shaft through the roller bearing on that side, on the left hand side, and the second person is going to actually take this whole housing and they're actually going to slide it back on to the bar and drop it into the bottom support.
Okay, making sure that it was actually, you had to slide it all the way along, actually inside
So
of the
there's no
machine
spaces,
first,
yes.
and then it fitted down there.
Perfect.
Cool.
I will come
we'll
back
be back with you soon, bro.
Thanks, hey guys. Hi guys, me again, Basil Clark here. We're busy finishing up on the install of the
Why did you change
G12.
your shirt?
A new day.
Oh,
A new dawn.
okay.
So as you can see, we're starting on the G3 cabling of the dual adjustable pulleys. So very important to notice, if you're taking a pulley, make sure that the actual bushing of the pulley does not fall out. So it must look like that on both sides, because sometimes it falls out and it can lay on the floor. So don't go and install it like that, because what will happen is your pulley will rotate. Thanks guys.
Cool.
Hi guys, Basil here from Fitness Network. We are putting on the weight stacks right now. You must make sure that it doesn't jump out the housing in the bottom, and you make sure you slide them on with the correct size.
And make sure that you set them up all in the correct order beforehand, which is what Basil and I have done over here. Taking from the bottom and then putting the heaviest ones on first. Sounds obvious, but you don't want to go and take all of these off after you've got them in the wrong order.
Perfect.
And then just slipping them on the top there.
Thanks guys.
See you later.
Hi guys, finally we are here. This is the last step. It's tensioning the weight stack. So first it's first. When you started this cable, you would have started up here. So I always suggest start in the second or the third hole. Run your cable and
Just take us through where the cable goes.
so it goes from here, straight down, out, around here, around there. Remember I told you it goes underneath the weight stack, back up, and around back down. So when I got down here, I noticed that the cable was too short to go in here. That's why I then adjusted on top here. I actually moved it from the third hole or the second hole right down to the bottom hole, which gives you more length of the cable. Then you actually adjust here. So what I'm doing is the bottom screw over here is called a lock nut. This screw on top is actually tensioning the cable. So what I'm doing as I'm turning it now into the top guide rod is I'm selecting to see that it's smooth, to make sure that it's smooth so it doesn't lift, and I'm busy tensioning this cable right now as I do that. So I've got to a nice place where it slides in, and all I'm simply going to do is tighten that bottom cable, which is called the lock nut. I am then going to find my spanner, which is laying down there, which in South African terms would be a 19mm spanner, and I'm just going to lock it.
Why do we keep talking in South African terms?
Because you are in my head office in South Africa, the international head office.
Okay.
There we go, so that cable's done. So what we could, that's the one side that's done. I still need to tighten the pulleys, but just to show you, I can drop the weight down to 9.5 kilograms. I don't have to put a handle on here, and we've got a smooth motion. Thanks guys, ciao for now. Hi guys, it's me again. Final step finally for the G12. You will notice in the manual that it could be a bit confusing for that last pulley over there, where you'd look in the front here and you wouldn't be able to locate it. So what actually happened is it comes straight off this pulley here, it goes straight underneath the actual weight stack, and it comes out on this side, on the back of the weight stack, as the pulley housing, as you can see there. Once you've done that, you're going to go straight up with the cable, straight up, straight around these top housings over here, and you're going to drop it straight through this hole, the cable, and it's going to come straight here and screw straight into the weight stack over here. And that is the final process of setting up the cables. Thanks guys, ciao. Hi guys, it's me, Basil Clark again, taking you through the final process of doing the cabling. You will notice on the cabling now, on this bottom one, it's very easy to thread from the top down, but you'll notice there's a very small hole inside this bracket of where the cable needs to go through that hole, and it needs to come out on the other side. And what's very important, otherwise, look, you can definitely do it, it's not impossible, it's going to take a long time if you don't follow the steps I'm about to show you. So you'll notice on the end of the cable, which this bolt goes into the weight stack, but you'll notice that that slides up and down the cable, like that. So first step.
Just show us how it slides again.
So it slides up and down the cable. So
cool.
First step first. Take your nut, drop it right down to the bottom. Now what we're going to do is we're going to secure this bolt to the top of the cable, so when we put it through the machine, it doesn't slide up and down and you get frustrated because you're trying to get it through. So what I've done is I'm just using normal sellotape. You can use sellotape, you can use insulation tape. The reason why I've chosen sellotape is just to show you guys that you can use normal sellotape. So what you're going to do is take the sellotape and you're going to tape it just like that, so it stops this from sliding up and down. Once that's done, you'll find the process of threading this through over here is extremely easy. So once you've done that, you thread it through here. Now that it's not moving, it will take a bit of time, but it'll come through. So it just takes a bit of wiggle.
One of the trickier parts of the...
So you just got to make sure you come through straight, and there it is. We are through. So you make sure when you put the bolt through this side that the bolt goes through straight. And what's very important to note is if where I'm busy taking the bolt out over here, you will see inside the tubes, it's these two bolts that are here that run through here. You need to make sure that the cable runs in between the two bolts that are there, so you have no problems. And all you do is pull it through, and that is about the hardest part of threading the cable on the system. Thanks guys, catch you later. Hi guys, we've just finished off both weight stacks. Very important to notice, on the bottom you'll see a rubber, and the housing that this rod slides into at the bottom is very shallow, so you must make sure that it doesn't jump out when you're loading the weight stacks. Thanks guys.